watching Fox 10 Arizona Morning with Ron Hood, Rick D'Amico, Andrea Robinson, Kristen Anderson, and Corey McCloskey in HD.
And it has been 2 years since 3 people died inside a sweat lodge in Sedona. And the man in charge was James Arthur Ray, self-help guru, motivational speaker, whatever, found guilty of negligent homicide.
So now the question is today, what sentence will he get? And, you know, this case has been ongoing, like you said, but there was a halt in the case. It was stopped for a while.
Right.
Then it picked back up again. Yesterday there was emotional testimony from his mother.
Oh, yeah. We played, well, we tried to play a little bit of it on top of the hour. You know, here are some of the circumstances involved in this case, which may or may not weigh on the decision of his sentence. He was originally charged with manslaughter, but jurors rejected arguments that it was reckless. Okay, he was originally found guilty of 3 counts of negligent homicide. So
he was found guilty on that, but he was first charged back. They first charged him with manslaughter, dating back to the ceremony, which happened back in 2009.
In 2009. So how will that weigh on the decision? Also, he has no criminal history, of course. He, he doesn't have a record or anything like that. And he's taking care of a couple of aging parents.
That's what his attorneys say. They say, you know, he's being either sentenced to probation all the way up to 9 years in prison.
Right.
Maybe somewhere in between. We just don't know. But of course, prosecutors say that they want the maximum sentence handed down to him because they don't want him to do this again. Although, again, like you said, his attorneys say probation would be the best. He's shown remorse. He apologized yesterday in court. And so that's what they argue.
And during the trial, there was a lot of testimony on whether he was acting as a coach, helping to improve people's lives and saying you could do it and encouraging them to stay in a sweat lodge or humiliating people if they wanted to leave. 3 people died. You can't lose sight of that.
Absolutely, and those families have had to grieve the loss of their family members for the last 2 years as this has continued to play out in a courtroom.
So what are the chances of getting probation or going to prison? Negligent homicide, pretty serious charge. Joining us on the phone now is attorney Dwane Cates. He's an expert on the case. And you were there every day in the trial, were you, Dwane?
Well, I wasn't there every day, but I was there quite a bit. I was a guest commentator for True TV that was covering the case live. So I followed the case on TV almost every day, and I was in the courtroom quite a bit.
Was this interesting to you from the standpoint that allegedly the people that were inside the sweat lodge were there voluntarily, were they not?
Well, yeah, it's always interesting when you have a negligent homicide. You know, they're interesting cases because there's no clear line from when you cross from just regular negligence into criminal negligence, you know, into recklessness. And it's a continuum, and there's no clear, you know, you can't say, okay, once you do this, you're over the line. And so it's always a question for the jury, and it's and they're really interesting cases.
And with this one, we had just mentioned that originally authorities had charged him with manslaughter. That was then taken back because of the jurors, you know, arguing that that wasn't strong enough, and now it's negligent homicide. How serious is that, and especially the change from one that's a little more minor than what it is now?
Yeah, well, manslaughter, you know, negligent homicide carries almost exactly half the penalties of a negligent homicide, or double the penalties of negligent homicide. So he got a big break when the jury found that it was just negligent homicide and it wasn't manslaughter. You know, he went from a presumptive of 5 years down to a presumptive of 2.5 years for each of the cases.
Now, the mother, James Arthur Ray, excuse me, his mother made an emotional plea to the court yesterday. How does that weigh on the judge's decision?
Well, you know, whenever I do sentencing, I always want mothers to get up and testify in front of the judge, and if they cry, that's usually a good thing because, you know, that no matter how hardened somebody is, that always seems to have an effect on people. And, you know, this is a case where James Ray didn't intentionally kill people. You know, he didn't start out that day going, I'm going to have a sweat lodge and kill people. So, you know, I think everything he can put in front of the judge is going to help.
What's your prediction for the sentencing?
Well, I think that he should get probation based on the fact that this wasn't an intentional crime, you know, that he didn't benefit any from this crime. It wasn't like he was, you know, he's going to make more money if people die. In fact, just the opposite happened. It cost him absolutely everything. I mean, he's lost civil cases. It's cost him all his money. He had to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on attorney's fees for this trial, you know. But I don't believe in Prescott that the judge is going to give him probation, just based on the fact that it's just going to be hard with public sentiment. I mean, you know, he's an outsider. He's a rich, slick guy from L.A. that brought in rich, slick lawyers from L.A. And I just don't think that's going to play real well in Prescott.
Okay.
All right.
Attorney Dwane Cates, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Appreciate it.